So, I have some sort of pre-existing slides here that I wanted to talk to you about, but I've taken some pretty detailed notes about the work that you guys have done, and so I'd like to kind of make this an interactive session. So if there's, at some point, if you'd like to speak to that at any point, just raise your hand or let me know, because I don't want this to be just a one-way conversation. So, user experience. I'm a big KISS fan, first of all, so I always try to integrate Gene Simmons into any slideshow, any presentation that I have. User experience at its highest level involves a person's emotions about a particular product, system, or service. So when you're talking about user experience design, you're literally talking about the emotion that is elicited from the content that you're seeing in front of you, whether it's a button to enter your name, whether it's a picture, whether it's video, whether it's audio. It's how you're emotionally responding to things. The reason I bring in the KISS thing is when I was in 5th grade, I saw KISS play, and it blew my mind. And I wanted to understand, like, that elicited so much emotion in me. I thought, I want to be in a position someday to really draw out people's emotions like that. Well, who knew it would be technology, right? Who knew that that would be the area that I would go into? But user experience really is an extension of how people psychologically respond to things. And the cybersecurity piece is interesting because what we consider security, like when we were talking about social media and how people are being tracked on social media, I knew some of you were a little surprised that you were actually, all of that stuff was being recorded and there was data. Their database is full of your personal information that are out there. How many people knew that you were being tracked in some way, shape, or form online? Okay, and how much detail, when you think about being tracked on social media or being tracked online, what are some of your first responses? Like what do you think about when you think about people tracking you online? Just first thing that comes to your mind.
Shouldn't do anything.
So Julian, you're saying you feel like you're being watched. Like your behavior online is altered by the fact that you feel like someone is watching you.
Yes.
That you're being observed in some way, shape, or form. See, and for me, I think, there was at one point in society where people were talking about Big Brother, right? So, they were talking about Big Brother. I'm not necessarily worried about Big Brother. I'm worried about a bunch of little brothers, right? I'm worried about how people consume information on me personally. But with all of the millions and billions of people that are online, who's going to have time to sift through all of that stuff, right? So that's where the technology comes into play. And also about cybersecurity. So I want to tie these two things together. Culturally, cybersecurity means different things to different people. When I think of cybersecurity, it's kind of the same idea. It's not necessarily, do you have my name or my address or my phone number? That's important, absolutely. But it's more like, are you observing me and profiling me online to make some sort of decision about my life, right? So cybersecurity to me, in the biggest, generic definition, cybersecurity is a body of technologies, processes, and practices designed to protect networks. Basically, it means when I do a transaction online, if I'm doing online banking, if I have some sensitive material, there's this layer of security around what I send and where it goes, right? Well, I think cybersecurity in sort of a bigger application. So you guys are all at some point probably going to be doing research or probably going to be kind of applying some of these ideas that you've come up with. Now, the biggest differentiator I can think of is culturally things are so radically different. I mean, everybody here is somewhat aware that you're being tracked, but you're kind of like, I'm still going to go online. I'm not going to not check my Facebook. I'm not going to not send pictures via Instagram. I'm not going to not use it. So what is it in your mind that has gotten you to the point where you feel comfortable being online knowing that someone's observing you?
I think the fact that everyone's using it, like you just kind of feel like, oh well, can't happen to everyone. Like everyone's doing it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, but does the fact that you know someone is observing your behavior in some way, does it alter your behavior online? Do you think about it before you send pics? I know there are politicians who don't think about it before they send pictures out, obviously, Because there's always these scandals where people are taking incredibly inappropriate pictures of themselves and sending it to an intern, or whatever scandal du jour because of social media. Now, they've got to know intellectually on some level that they're going to be observed, it's going to be out there. But as a rule of thumb, we all kind of know that, right? But we're still out there and we're still feeding information. Now, one thing I want you to take into consideration is that, and I'll pull this back a little bit. I spent a number of years in a marketing agency that looked at the digital data that comes from shopping, from transactions online, and even looked at loyalty cards. So when you swipe your loyalty card at a grocery store, when you swipe your loyalty card at any retail outlet that collects that data, what they're doing, if you looked in their databases, they have you associated with that card, and they know exactly what your purchase cycles look like. They know what you buy. They know the kind of information that they need to market more effectively to you. So when you are at a CVS and you swipe your card and they notice that you've bought People magazine every time you've come in there, you're going to have a coupon for a certain % off of People magazine. That's the kind of data that's been collected on everybody for a very long time.
Yeah, there's that classic, this was also a few months ago, a father, he had been called over and over, his family was getting called from companies looking at babies products. He said, "Why are you calling me? I'm not having a baby." Well, we found out a few months after, based on his daughter's purchasing behavior, they had been tracking that she was going to be having a baby, and he found out after.
See, and that's a case of you're being marketed to before you even know the event in your life. And it's really funny, and I think if I hadn't been on the other side of the screen, had I not been one of the people that was peering into your purchasing behavior, that I wouldn't have thought about it. But one of the things that I find really interesting also is that information, I'll give you one really solid concrete example. At the agency that I worked for, we did a lot of work with automotive brands, and in one instance, we were tasked to come up with a series of commercials that were specifically targeting individual types of people. So if I'm Comcast or I'm this cable company X, we're going to put 2 commercials down the pipeline when we buy this media. And if you're across the street and you have kids and you are married and you have a certain attributes, we're going to send you the commercial for the minivan. If you live across the street and you're single and you're by yourself, we're going to give you the commercial for the convertible. So every time you turn on your television, you're in cables coming into your house, they have systematically looked at all of your information and said, you are going to be more likely to respond to this.